Hi everybody, I'm Julianne. Thank you for joining us at the second, number 2 of our VFILES plus Robinhood Community Partnership Unplugged conversation. We are really excited about the group that is sitting up here today, and really excited to talk about imagining a world that is different to what we're kind of going through right now. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce everybody, and also, as you know, we have a studio audience here, and then we have our internet audience, and we're also suggesting if you'd like to email any questions in, just send them to dearvfiles@vfiles.com, and we will try and get those and address those for you. The focus today really is, this talk is called Help Me Imagine. And for us, at VFILES, our mission is to connect and empower global youth, and having an imagination and seeing the world in a better way than how it is today is important for future thought leadership and to bring the world forward. So, Wes Moore, CEO of Robinhood, ex-president of the United States. Please run. I will be your campaign manager. If you're not familiar with Robinhood, I'm going to hand it over to Wes. He will talk to you about that. Rory. Rory is a youth advocate from the Hedrick Martin Institute. Rory's going to tell you all about Rory. Beautiful, Carmen. Thank you for being here. I want Carmen to tell Carmen's story. And these spicy Jiggly Caliente. We just had a little chat upstairs before, and if the conversation that we had before is any indication of what we're going to talk about now, I'm really excited for everyone. But let's start with Wes, and Wes will run the show, and I'm going to just sit over here, and anything you need, just point at me, okay?
Thank you so much. Good evening. First, Julianne VFILES, thank you so much once again for having us here. Thank you for leading conversations that are long overdue and being unafraid about the way you lead conversations. And thank you for making this theme really about this idea of Help Me Imagine. Because really the work that you do and the work that VFILES does is that's what you're asking all of us to do every single day. Is help us all to imagine a world where everyone can be comfortable and free in who they are. And everybody can know that their voice and their honesty and their truth matters to all of us. And I tell you that, as the CEO of Robinhood, and I'm incredibly happy to see so many members of Robinhood here, we're really honored to be a part of this conversation. Because we look at it from both a professional perspective, right? The fact that 7% of youth in this country are LGBTQ, but it also represents 40% of the homeless youth population in this country. We look at it from a professional perspective because you can't be serious about being a poverty fighter if you're not willing to fight and advocate for the LGBTQ community. You can't be serious about really advocating for equality and advocating for voice in our society if this is also not part of your mission. But the truth is that I also come at it from a very personal perspective, and also why I'm really honored to be here. Because, as Julianne knows, I spent 10 years in the military. And I spent 10 years as a paratrooper in the military. And I got very involved and became one of the leaders in the fight behind the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And it wasn't intentional. It was what happened was when I first joined the military. I first joined the military when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was the rule, and frankly, I didn't even think much about it. And one of my friends, one of my brothers, who I first met when I was 13 years old, and for a little bit of background, I ended up feeling handcuffs on my wrists here in New York when I was 11 years old for the first time. And when I was 13, I was sent away to a military school. And I hated every minute of this military school when I first showed up. I ran away 5 times in the first 4 days. And one of the people that came up to me after one of the last time I ran away was this guy who was a 5'11" African-American dude who's like 230 pounds, like all muscle and no neck, just like one of these dudes. And at first when he was introduced to me, he didn't say anything to me, he just stared at me. And the next day I saw him, and he called me over. And he told me that he was going to be my new big brother. And he said, when you do things right, I'll be the first one to know. When you do things wrong, I'll be the first one to know. I recommend you do more right things than wrong things. I was 13 years old. And he not only became my big brother, he became my big brother. He was a guy who, when I first joined the military right out of high school, he was one of the first people that I called because I knew he was an Army officer and I wanted to make him proud. When I got commissioned as an Army officer, he was sitting right in the front row with my mom. I got my bars pinned on my shoulder. And I knew he left the military, and I thought he left the military because his time was up. I later on found out that that wasn't the reason he left the military. I later on found out that the reason he left the military was because he had the audacity of telling his truth. He said, if I'm going to be part of an organization that prides itself in honor and integrity, then it's important that I be honorable and tell my truth. The military had him out in 6 weeks. I had people who beat their spouses to the point of putting them in the hospital. And it took 6 and 8 months to get them out. They got him out in 6 weeks. And so the reason that I got involved in the repeal of that ridiculous law, don't ask, don't tell, was because it became personal. Because in no way, shape, or form was having that ridiculous law in place. It wasn't the fact that someone like my friend Ty, who was not only one of the best leaders I've ever met in my life, and I trust my kids under his command. But somehow somebody was making an argument that we were somehow less safe with him in the ranks. This became personal. And I celebrated as loud as anybody the night that that law was removed from our books. I saw firsthand the courage that my friend Ty had. I saw firsthand what he had to take, what he had to endure in order to be honest with himself and honest with the world. And so that's why I can tell you from the bottom of my heart what a huge honor it is to be on stage with y'all. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart because the truth is that we are never going to be as good as our promise if we're not letting everyone to be honest about their own. And we will never be as good as our promise unless everyone feels the opportunity to be honest and proud and prideful about who they are. So I can tell you I speak on behalf of everybody here and everybody who's watching. It truly is an honor to be up here with y'all. So thank you so much for who you are, and thank you so much for what you represent as well. Maybe I'll start with some questions, and then we'll also open it up to you guys to continue. But maybe Rory, we'll start with you. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and about what brought you not only to the Remarkable Institute, but then also what brought you to this moment, to this space right here?
Is this working?
Here.
Thanks. Well, hello there all. My name is Rory. I am a youth advocate at the Hutch Martin Institute. And what brought me here today, so I didn't know I was going to be here yesterday. I was at my internship, chilling, and they were like, hey, can we talk to you for a second? So it's like at that moment, like, oh crap, I did something wrong, I'm getting fired. Turns out they're like, hey, we want you to come to VFILES. So I'm like, oh, I was about to curse. Like, oh crap. And like, sure, let's do it. And well, that's why I'm here today. Surprised. And I'm, next to all these amazing people. Like, yeah. As you can tell, I have no idea what to say. I'll talk about HMI. The HMI Institute is, well, I have notes because I have scattered here, so bear with me. So HMI is one of the oldest and largest LGBTQ youth servicing organizations, and we offer millions and millions of services where it can range from housing to just everything, honestly. I don't know how to put it into words. It's just, we have free dinner at around 5 o'clock, gourmet chefs, everything, the whole 9 yards. Art services, if you ever feel like you just want to express yourself in any way or any shape or form. We also have this thing called Kiki Lounge, and it's where you can just come, have fun, connect with other people, and just, kiki, I guess.
How'd you first get linked up?
Linked up to Hatchet Martin.
Yeah.
So, long story. So, when I first started high school, I started in Queens. I went to August Martin High School. And horrible high school, I got bullied a lot for being gay. And I decided that I needed to change of pace. So the principal decided to tell me about Harvey Milk. And she was like, okay, so I'm friends with the principal over there. So maybe we can hook you up and get you over there. And long story short, I ended up transferring to the Harvey Milk High School. And thus, I learned about HMI, which is the after-school program that is at Harvey Milk High School. And that's kind of how I got hooked up with the HMI.
So, Carmen, can you tell us a bit about your journey to seizing your own identity as well?
I'm sorry.
Your journey to seizing your identity.
Seizing my identity. Wow, that's a good way to put it. Well, honestly, I guess I'm the kind of person that's like trial and error, I guess, or like I think I prefer my own interpretation on life because since I was a kid, I always like questioned things. Like I went to kindergarten in Paterson, New Jersey, and it was a Catholic school. And I would always like ask, like, well, why do we have to do it this way? Why? And there was never ever a straightforward answer. And I just kept it to myself, and I would always kind of just go through school, like listening and following the rules because I'm a good kid, and I want to, my mom's like, pressuring me to like be great, and she's a single mom, so of course, she wants the best for her kids. So, I just kind of like dealt with it, never really opened up, but I just sat there and thought to myself, like, what's happening? Like, why can't I go across, like in high school, why can't I go across the street and have a slice of pizza? Why do I have to eat this horrible like food? I always was that type of person. And then once I graduated high school, I just was like, all right, listen, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow as a female. It's just not going to happen. I pray to God for like ever, and it just didn't happen. And I'm 18, okay? I'm like, I want to find who I am. Like, I need to find someone. I had no resources back then. It wasn't that long ago, but I didn't have any resources. And I just kind of went out to the scene and just found my way. Like, I don't know, like I just had to experience it for myself, going through the gay circuit and kind of like saying, okay, well, if I'm gonna live my life as a man and I'm attracted to men, I guess, I even cringe sort of thinking about it because I remember thinking back then like how badly I wanted to just be feminine and just be a female and just like wake up the next day as a girl. Like I still had to deal with that, but I made excellent friends. And like my gay friends are like, we're so tight because we can just be so real and so vulnerable and so honest at the same time. So I kind of went through the channels and then I started performing and then I got on TV and then I had a moment where I thought to myself, well, what's next for my future? Like, how do I see myself aging? Like, what do I want to do for business? How do I want to build my brand? Like, what, and that sort of like, being open and vulnerable and asking for help and asking for, answers and asking for resources. And that's really what led me to seize my identity, you know? Experiencing it, understanding it, processing it, thinking, is this where I want to be? Is this where I want to see myself? Is this where I'm going to thrive? Is this, you know, is this making me better? And through that process, you know, obviously, you know, you raise your level of self-awareness, but at the same time, it's like you really put in perspective, like what's good for you. And you start to think like, this is how I'm going to survive. Like, this is what it's going to be. And that's sort of the way that I did it. But it wasn't easy though. Super difficult, you know, to not conform. Because, yeah.
Well, so let me follow up on that, because you talk about the idea of asking for help and asking for support. That's not easy.
No, not at all. Especially when you're an Aries and you think you know it all. Yeah, like it was really hard because I always wanted to be the savior. I always wanted to be the savior. You know, like growing up, I remember like, you know, my father, he passed away when I was a baby. You know, HIV related things, AIDS related. In the 80s, there's no treatment, whatever. And we just had to like deal and cope. And you know, growing up with my mom, my grandmother, my sister, like there was always difficulty with not only conforming, but like being respected, like just what women go through, you know, like they were very open in my house. And I always wanted to be the savior. I always wanted to be the one that knew what to do next, you know. And I pushed myself down that way, you know, by not opening up to what was bothering me. Like I pushed myself so far down that by the time I grew up and I was like 18 and ready to take on the world, like now it's like, I felt like I was almost drowning. Like, you know, like who am I? You know, what am I gonna do now? And yeah, so being open was what really helped. Like talking to people that I felt like related to me or had a similar experience or just knew better. Like, you know, people that are older, you know, that I could trust really helped me along the way.
So Jiggly, you tell the story, you told actually, and if it's okay, I'm gonna ask you to repeat a story that you mentioned upstairs about your baby book. Can you share that story?
Okay, well, in the Philippines, it's very Catholic, so they really look down upon like psychics and everything like that. But my mom decided that, you know, she was gonna go see a psychic just for fun. And the psychic told my mom that when the psychic touched my mom's belly, that she was like, your daughter is going to have her name in lights and she is going to be so beautiful. And I was like, okay. My mom just like took it with a grain of salt. And you know, a couple months later, a little boy came out. And then she thought that, she was like, well, I don't think that's gonna happen then. Fast forward 26 years. Mommy, I'm a girl. And then she was like, yeah, but your name is still not in lights.
There you go.
Sadly, I'm sure she sees it now, like from above, but I'm sure now she's like, wow, that really did happen. You know, like it was written in my baby book, and my mom wrote it just as, and even the doctor told her that I think you have a daughter, you have a girl, like with the way her belly was set up, and you know, at the time, like it wasn't like, I was born 1980, so if you're gonna do the math, I'm 36 years old. So like back then, like the ultrasound or whatever, it wasn't like a big thing, and mainly in the Philippines, it's a third world country. So they just assumed I was going to be a girl, and lo and behold, everything was pink too when I was born. So my dad was really mad. He was like, uh-oh. He was like, this kid's gonna turn gay. Careful what you wish for. So, you know, that was like one thing that I remember, and my grandmother also told me this story, and she was so mad at my mom when, you know, they went, but you know, you fast forward to like I said, when I turned 26 and I told my mom, yeah, I don't think I'm gay. I think I really am supposed to be a girl. And it was just weird because I think my mom took me being a girl a lot easier than when I came out as gay, which is, I don't try to process it at this point. It was, you know, I'm just glad that she was like okay with that, because when I came out as gay, she tried to pray the gay away from me. She sent me to an all-boy Catholic school, and she made me become an altar server. Yeah, Mommy, you put me in a candy store, thank you. You know, what? Like, I just told you, I'm gay. So you put me in an all-boy Catholic school. You forced me to join the football team. I'm like, really? What? I mean, I remember like after I came out, and like me and my brother would always like give my mom such a hard time, because we'd be like, you did this to me. So this isn't me. Like, I know I was born this way, but you kind of helped push it along. So you know that. I'm blessed in a way that even though my mom didn't understand, she tried, and even though my culture is so Catholic, and she's very a devoted Catholic, she had an open heart and an open mind to who I was and who I am. So it's nice. It's kind of like, you know, bittersweet to think about now, but I'm blessed in that way. Now, high school was a whole different story.
Well, even when you talked about when you first told her, where it almost sounded like when you said, you know, oh, you did this to me, even if you were joking, that it almost came off as almost like as almost like an apologetic, right? What point did you start to say, no, there's nothing to apologize about?
I mean, I think as soon as I realized that I am a woman, and that's when I stopped apologizing for how I acted or how I was as a kid, because it was always there. They didn't make it difficult for me, but it's just like, it's what I felt like society kind of said, this is why you're wrong. You're like, and I'm glad that, like I said, like I'm my support system, like my brother, who's a straight heterosexual boy, who's like my biggest protector, and he would always be like, at any time he heard anybody call me a faggot or anything, my brother's first to fight. And it's weird because like the little boy don't know how to fight. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get in a fight because I'm gonna try to get you off me. And I tried, growing up, I was like, my mom kind of told me, even when I had the tendencies, supposedly. So when my mom kind of told me, she was like, it's best to keep your head down and just go through the motions. Don't attract attention to yourself so you don't get in trouble or you don't put yourself in danger. My mom, the only thing I think she was afraid of was me getting hurt by people who don't understand who I am. So that's why I always felt like I had to apologize for who I am, but I also realized that I didn't have to, because at the end of the day, this is who I am. I didn't choose this. I am just going through the path of what makes my life and makes me feel that where I belong for myself, not for anybody else. So when I finally found, oh, the shoe fits here, this is what works for me, this is who I am, and to live unapologetically is very liberating. And honestly, for me, it's just literally been 2 years where I've stopped caring of what other people may think or assume about who I am in my life. So I was just like, you know what? Fuck you. That's the best way to say it, because like, if you're not feeding me, fucking me, and financing me, I don't care. The only, as a kid, of course, we're like, yeah, we have to, our parents support us. But now, like I said, at 36 years old, I'm paying all my bills myself. I put a roof over my head. I'm feeding myself. You know, so if I could just get the other one to do that.
I was gonna ask, but I didn't want to be a
I know. Sadly, I still need a board for that.
So, Carmen, you mentioned something earlier that I thought was really powerful, where you talked about, you know, kind of your evolution, how you're very much still in the process of like you discovering yourself even as we speak. Right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so, can you talk a little bit about that, and also how that translates to your name?
Oh, like my real name?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is the thing, okay, guys. When it's a question of your identity. You know, most of us, you form your identity like growing up in high school, and you like, you know, go through the regular, like, you know, what everyone else goes through, you know, and then you graduate and you have to get your credit and your, you know, checking account, whatever. You start to get those things and you start to have pride in who you are, and then, you know, like, whatever, like, you know, you go out to the clubs, you be social or whatever it is, you develop your character, you get better at business, you, whatever it is, go to school, whatever. And for me, it's like, my whole 20s was spent exploring, you know, like okay, well, if this is what I am currently, then I'm gonna try to do this. Okay, I don't like that, well, I'm gonna try something else now. Okay, I don't like that, I'm gonna try something else now. So up until now, to this point, have I been able to like think like, well, okay, yes, I'm a woman, I told the world I was a woman, they get it, okay, fine. Now I have to be a woman. Now I have to be a person, an adult. Now I have to, you know, think about what else is next for me. And I want to have something great to offer. I want to, you know, like not just be known as just an entertainer or a model or whatever, like a personality. Like I want to be a good person, you know, and I want to be able to experience life, and I want to be able to have friendships, and I want to be able to expand, like, you know, on just all the general aspects of my personality, and that takes a lot of, you have to dig really deep, you know, and you have to forget a lot of things that you picked up along the way. You know, there's a lot of coping skills are really major too. You know, there's, yeah, there's just a lot of things, and now I'm focused on that, and yeah, I changed my name, my legal name, my birth certificate says female now, like everything, all of that stuff took a while, you know, and like my whole family had to go through the change too, you know, and they call me, because my name is Gabriela Costa Roman, like that's my real name. And I don't know if I should put it out there like that, but I'm just gonna do it because I was asked and I already did it. So yeah. So my family calls me Gabby, you know, like I'm Gabby, I'm from New Jersey, you know. Carmen Carrera is this like, you know, person that I created for the stage to express how much I really wanted to be a girl. You know, like that's really what it was. My whole drag character was like, this is how much of a bad bitch I am inside my heart. And I'm gonna show you guys, and you're gonna love it. I'm gonna take my clothes off. Like, yes, like I was just so genius back then, you know, like now I'm just like, all right, that's still great. I still love that stuff. I still love to get in character, but now, you know, I wanna have depth, and I wanna have a separate life, I'm a real person, you know, and I deserve to have those real life experiences that all women go through, you know, like just things. You know, so that's where I am. I'm really focused on that. Reconnecting to home, I'm focused on Latin America right now. I want to bring the ideas, you know, of unity and acceptance and diversity out to Latin America. I want to work with the LGBT organizations out there. I'm actually working with one now. It's called Colectiva Prisma, and it's in Colombia. And I'm focused on Peru in January. We did Mexico, went to Mexico City. We did like the rounds of press and stuff, and that's where my focus is. And I'm Peruvian, my family's Peruvian, and you know, I can't wait to like be able to open up their minds out there. You know, like we have enough things happening here in the United States, and I think that we have LGBT brothers and sisters out there in the world who have it way worse than we do. You know, like over here is like, you know, to them it's like, we have it great here, you know. We have, you know, you can hold hands with you know, same-sex couples can hold hands in the street, and it's okay, you know. I mean, it's not the best, but it's still better than how they might have it, you know. So I want to be able to like push it outwards, you know. Like the United States is, I think, is a work in progress, but you know, I want to be able to share it with the world. So yeah.
So let me follow up on that, and actually it's a question for all three of them. When you first decided that I'm going to express to the world who I am, Of the three of you, how many of you felt like the world embraced it?
0%.
So we still do have a ways to go.
Yeah, we do.
I feel like we take one step forward and then 3 steps back. You know, I feel like there's always something that happens. Yes, it's great that now in California, it's so much easier for trans women and men to change their, what's the word? I like to change from female to male on their IDs, their gender markers. But how many trans women of color have died this year that still there's no media coverage for it, or these deaths have not been even investigated? You know, so as much as I would like to say, yes, we take a step forward, but somehow, some way, I feel like we're still in the dark ages. And, you know, we make strides, but it's an awful game of shoots and ladders, because it's.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be difficult, you know, but it's been a long time coming. You know, if you think about Stonewall and you think about how far we've come. I just watched that documentary on Netflix about Marsha P. Johnson, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this wasn't all that long ago. You know, this is like, what, 93 they said? I was like, wow, that wasn't really that long ago. You know, so it's definitely, it can feel that way, because I'm all about positive vibes. I always look on the bright side, okay? Like, I try to, it's a practice. And I try to think about, yes, it gets depressing. Yes, when we start to get that hope that it's gonna go our way and it's gonna be exactly how we want it, or whatever it is, and then it doesn't happen, and it gets discouraging, and then it happens over and over and over again. But I also think about how much worse it was 20 years ago, you know? And I kind of feel like our, I guess, the ancestors, or you know, the generation behind us, previous to us, you know, I feel like they'd be proud about what's happening now. You know, they'd be proud. So we have to kind of think like that, to say, like, you know, I walk into a room now, today, present day, but how many people behind me have had to come before I've been able to walk, even sit up here and have this discussion, for people to have access to these ideas and these, you know, these things that we're talking about. You know, so you have to keep thinking progressively, and you have to realize that it's not gonna be easy. Real life is not Instagram. You know, that you're gonna post a picture and tons of people are gonna love you. Like, you're not gonna walk outside these doors and all these people are gonna agree with you. It's not gonna happen. It's not realistic. You know, but you have to focus on contributing to what everyone else behind you has been working for and contributing to as well, to make it a little bit easier for us, because we have it a little bit easier than they did back then. You feel me? So it's like, I don't know, you can't get too beat up. Go to the gym. Let's go to the gym together. Let's take a Zumba class.
Nope.
Let's get happy, okay? Like, seriously. Let's get together and have fun.
I'll make cookies with you. That'll do.
Like, we have to lift our spirits up. We can't get caught with the icky feelings, because that's how they're gonna keep you down. You know?
I know, but it's just, I feel like we have to be, like you said, like, the reality is it's not Instagram, and sometimes, like I said, we do make strides, and I'm so great that we do. But then those times when we take those steps back, mainly with who our president is right now, I mean, you know, it's not going to be easy, and it's scary, and we just have to feel like I just feel like we always, as the community, or as a country, I feel like we all got to have our defenses up, because at any given moment it could be taken away from us with the way things are going. And it's a sad reality. As much as I would love to feel like, you know, the glass is half empty. I mean, not as half full, but there's still that.
It feels empty.
Yeah, there's that point.
And that's okay. That's just feelings.
No, but you're. I mean, we have to have our defenses up for ourselves.
Always.
But we also have to have our defenses up for each other as well. Yeah. And I think we have to understand and appreciate that, you know, when laws are being violated, and when laws are being challenged, and when freedoms are being challenged, Even if you don't think it directly impacts you, wait till tomorrow. Because if you stand there and you say nothing, trust me, it's coming your way. Let me ask Rory a question, then I'm going to open up to y'all for questions. So Martin Luther King Jr. once said, he said, laws don't change the heart, but laws can protect me from the heartless. From a structural, systemic place, what do you think needs to happen structurally, systemically, in order to make sure that you are protected from the heartless?
Well, that's a big question for a 20-year-old. What do I think needs to happen? I think a lot of shit needs to happen. We just need to be more loving and more accepting, and we need to get out there. We need to, what's the word? We need to advocate. We need to spread the word. We need to do so many things, and there's such little time. And, you know, there are mountains that we have to climb over, and it's just a lot of shit that we need to get done.
When you think about the pace of progress that you've seen, and also you think about organizations like HMI and the work that they do, right? What do they need in order to move faster, impact more, get more stuff?
Well, like I said, HMI is one of the oldest and largest LGBTQ youth services organizations. And Bridget was telling me that there's a statistic saying that over 70% of youth find out about HMI through their friends. And, you know, it's such a large number, and we need people to know about these services through social media. Like, we need to get it out there more. You know, because if it's not for a friend to refer you, you know, how the hell are you going to know about this place? How are you going to get to this space? So yeah, I don't know, I'm sorry to answer your question.
I think you have. I'd like to open up to questions, if anybody has any questions.
I have one. Okay, so I'm really disturbed to hear that, you know, 40%, that 40% number. Can you just repeat that number again?
Yeah.
Where's that? So 40% of LGBTQ youth are homeless?
40% of all homeless youth are LGBTQ.
So how can we, you know, as VFILES, how can we, and as a community sitting here, how can we do something about that? I mean, is that because they feel like not accepted by their family, their friends, their, you know, like how can we do something about that number? I mean, that is a shocking number.
It's huge and it's shocking. Let me give kind of a 30,000, but then I want to turn it over to y'all. You know, one is I think we have to be able to address it from two different fronts, right? One, it's the pipeline. Like, what's going on that we're having so many youth who are feeling so disconnected that being homeless is the best and only available option that they've got. And then it's also thinking about, once we have youth who find themselves in this unfortunate, heartbreaking situation, what can we then do to be able to provide a sense of safety, provide a sense of support, and provide a sense of welcoming? That for many youth who find themselves in a situation, that's not real to them. I mean, again, even when I heard that stat, it was shocking to me. Almost half of all homeless youth, LGBTQ. And so I think we have to be able to address it from both a pipeline perspective, and then also what are we doing to support, to make sure that if people find themselves in a situation that they know that this does not have to be their path, their destiny. Organizations like HMI doing remarkable work on this issue. And actually, Bridget, if it's okay, can I ask you to also respond to this as well?
Sure.
To this question?
Yeah. I think that you're talking about the pipeline. There's a whole history of ways that LGBTQ young people are treated differently than their heterosexual peers long before they're homeless. Like the research is showing now that just like youth of color are punished more harshly and are perceived to be criminals, you know, in ways vastly different from their white-skinned peers, LGBT kids are punished more harshly for, you know, behavioral infractions and stuff at school. So instead of, you know, getting detention, they're in the school to prison pipeline a lot faster than heterosexual kids, and they, you know, they end up in child welfare, you know, at much younger ages. So there are, you know, I think it's easy to think about, oh, parents reject their kids when they come out and boom, they're on the street. And that's true in many cases, but in lots of other ways, we've created a whole system that, you know, neglects kids and kicks them out and treats them differently so that it's not unusual for that to be the final piece. So there's lots of change that we can be active and vigilant around, both in terms of trying to help people understand sexual orientation and gender identity as like a developmental part of every human being's, like, you know, becoming who they are as children, and changing how our institutions treat young people, looking at things that, like, you know, unconscious bias, implicit bias, changing policies around how to make places where kids spend most of their time places that are inclusive and welcoming and safe. So, you know, there's lots of things that we can do to make a difference around the pipeline. And then there's, you know, like Wes was saying, there's a lot of things we can do also around outreach to homeless young people and changing their options once they're in that place and experiencing homelessness.
So, okay, I feel that to help our youth to not feel so helpless, I feel like it should start with the educators or teachers and guidance counselors, because most kids spend half of their day in school, and if they don't feel protected or safe in school, how else will they navigate through the world if at the place where they're supposed to be safe and learn, and if they don't have that comfort, it ruins their chances right there. There's a teenager right now who is he's an LGBT youth. His name is Abel Cedeno. He got into a fight in school, and because he was being bullied, he snapped and he stabbed 2 kids. One kid died, and the other kid is still in critical condition, and he's facing homicide charges. He snapped. He had, I'm sure, like, you know, even in school, because I remember growing up, if I would get into an argument or a fight with somebody and they heard and I just retaliated, I was the one who was in trouble. So I feel like it should start with our educators, where if there's maybe a workshop that the teachers can go through to be more empathetic to kids who are different. Not necessarily LGBT, but at least if you're different, to somehow make them feel that they're safe in school, that they can speak to an adult about difficulties they're having with their classmates and not feel that it's their word against somebody else. I feel like that could help a lot. And it's unfortunate that it's still happening, and like you said, we're looked at differently and judged differently by who we are.
It's true. I agree 100%. I think that it all starts in school. Like, I think a lot of teachers and a lot of other students are exposed to, like, you know, hateful, like, behavior and bullying and these kind of things. And there is an organization based out of New Hampshire that is called History Unerased, and they are actually working on adding LGBT history into the curriculum, so that that will in turn open up the conversation, and that will let the educators know that we are valuable of a history, you know, to teach that. It's important, you know, so I agree 100%. Because I think a lot of people like kind of turn a blind eye, you know, like when it's in school, it's like, oh, they're just kids, you know, until something like that happens, you know, and then it's all of a sudden like, oh my God, somebody died now. Like it has to, like somebody has to die in order for you to like realize that it's not, we're not where we are, you know. Yeah, I agree. As far as the homelessness goes, it's really, oh gosh, it's like, if it was up to me, I swear to you, I wish that we could all like do what everyone's doing with Puerto Rico, you know, like all of these like fundraisers. I wish we can do that. I wish we can create a fundraiser that we can have, you know, create homes and create, you know, have a faculty that will be there to give the resources and tools that LGBTQ people need that don't often get because of their identity or because of their orientation, you know, because they're so kind of living in fear. Like I can relate to that feeling of living in fear and not sharing, you know, who you are, or just not, you know, embracing your experience and learning what you need to learn in order to move forward and function in the world, you know. And I feel it would be amazing if we could have like homes put up where we can put these kids through like a couple of weeks, you know, training, or depending on their age, you know, like a training or something to say like, you know, these are the tools that you're going to need. We're going to find you a job. You're going to be able to stay here for this period of time, and we're going to help you. And then it's, you know, then they're off to fly and be amazing human beings, you know. That, I mean, but I don't know if that's possible. I don't know. Someone out there,
yeah.
You know.
With all these buildings popping up, like there's a high rise every other day now here in New York City. And like, if these people weren't so goddamn greedy and just use one of these buildings that they're tearing down to become a high rise, use it to become like a home or a safe house for kids, you know, because it, like I said, that feeling of comfort and safety is all these kids sometimes just need, and then they'll be able to navigate themselves and, yeah. Because that's how I've always felt like I've been able to navigate in my life, is when I feel safe and I feel comfortable, I feel like I can do this. And, you know, even when life is like throwing every boulder they can find at you, if you somehow feel like there's that comfort and that safety somewhere, you'll be able to, you know, shield yourself for a second and then attack it the right way. And that's, like I said, I wish I had an answer to exactly what to do. You know, in a perfect world, it would be different, but it's not.
I like to pick up off where Jiggly left with the able situation. I don't know if anyone really read into it or read the news articles, but there was a specific one. I can't remember the magazine that did it, but they quoted that he was teased. And I thought that was like the most idiotic way to perceive the shit that happened.
Downplay it, like, oh, he was just teased.
That boy was not teased.
No. Nobody snaps from just being teased. The kid was,
the way media likes to downplay and perceive situations when it comes to the LGBTQIA community is just horrible. It doesn't make sense why, you know, when something serious happens to us, it has to be, you know, minute. You know, it has to be small. It can't be something on a large scale.
Yeah. Well, it's because to them, we're not really important.
Yeah,
we're not important. And they're like, oh, okay, well, you can't really make money off these people, so why, you know, they're not important. Let's just steal all their ideas, and that's it. You know, like, that's really serious. Like, that's really what it is, you know? And I feel like we have to find it in ourselves. We need to be strong together, you know? Because no one's going to come and save us. We have to save ourselves, you know? And we have to be there for one another. And I think that too is like another lesson that our community is learning, because for so long we've had to fight and we've had to be the rebel, and we've had to be, you know, defensive. And, you know, it's like now to learn these ideas of unity and, you know, and tolerance, because it's like we have to tolerate, you know, people think they have to tolerate us, but we have to tolerate them, you know? So it's like, yeah, it is bullshit. And the more we talk about it and the more that we come together and the more we tackle these things, you know, and we start these conversations like, you know, what you just said about the wording and how things, you know, how it's being perceived, like, we have to step it up, you know? Can't just sit around and complain about it. We have to do something about it, you know? We have to be the ones that are going to write to whatever news outlet and say, hey, this is not right, you know, this is not cool, or whatever. We have to be that person and then also be there for one another, you know?
I think everything that was said was so interesting, and I feel it so deeply. I think some of the reasons why things happen like this is because we don't have visibility, and I think it's something that's happening now with media and outlets and things like that. People think gay people don't exist or it's a new thing, but we've always been here. I think, you know, we can look at indigenous cultures and see that there have been entities that are genderless, and gay has always existed. And I think it's just now that this is becoming a traction of things. You know, I think it's interesting because we're in an age now that now gay is kind of hip. So we have people consuming gay culture for their own and profiting off that. I think it's always so interesting how when I hear people using vernacular that is from within the gay community, like I'll hear straight men say, "Oh, he was throwing shade," and I'm like, "Oh, now you throw shade."
All of the Real Housewives have stolen from the gay community. The Kardashians stole contouring from the queens.
But my point is, I think now we are seeing, like for example, there's publications that are coming out catered to LGBTQ, and I don't know if you've heard recently Condé Nast is coming out with a publication called Them, and it's catered to the LGBTQ community, but personally I feel like I am in this just dilemma where I'm like, yes, this is amazing, but also because Condé Nast has all this money, now they can put it behind and have Anna Wintour be a part of this board and write stories on behalf of gay people, although there are gay staff that are probably going to be working, contributing for this. I find myself at a crossroad where I'm like, okay, Them is super important because we need this, but we've had gay people writing these publications, writing these zines, independent things that, you know, they don't want to fund money, but they want to, like, to this gay, like, to the things that gay people have already been doing for a really long time. But now Condé Nast wants to make profit off of it, and now they're seen as beacon, like, you know, they're championing LGBTQ editorials and things like that. And I'm like, well, what about Hello Mister? What about Cake Boy? What about Gay Letter? Like, you know, these are publications that gay people have been trying to uplift and make huge, and now that Condé Nast wants to be a part of the conversation and they have the money to do it. Like, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about, you know, people that are profiting off our lives but don't give a fuck about us? Like, you know, they think we've never existed, but we've been here. We've tried to make a name for ourselves to have people be like, we are humans. Where's your humanity? Why don't you see us? But it's okay for them to make money off of us. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, honestly, like, that's how the world is sometimes. Like, not even just with us, like, just in other realms, you know, in business and stuff. Like, people are always trying to look at the little fishes in order to take something, you know, and make it their own. And I think that, and I agree with you, because sometimes I find myself in the same crossroads. It's like, okay, this sounds great, and this seems like it's going to be such a good thing, but is it really going to help? You know, is it really helping? And what is it going to do to everyone else who's been here? You know, and I think that it's all about, you know, certain things we can't control. You know, I know that answer's going to suck, you know, but there's certain things that we cannot control. But we can't sit around and be like, fuck, I hate this. No, like, you know, if you're available and you need a job or whatever it is, like I would because I put myself in those shoes, like, all right, well, this Them magazine is going to come out. I need to get a job at that magazine then, because I need to let them know how it really is. I need to tell them how it really is. I need to tell them how it was. I need to make sure it's going to be right. You know what I mean? Because I'm a firecracker like that. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what we need to do, is we need to get actively involved. You know, because at the end of the day, they're always going to need, if they're coming out with this Them magazine that's based on the LGBT community, they're going to always need us for something. They're gonna need us for the next issue. They're gonna need us for the next article, you know? And that's how we make money off of them, you know? They think they're taking money out of our work. We're gonna take it back, okay? We're gonna be like, yes, we know we want these stories. They're gonna cost you. You know what I'm saying? We gotta up our price. So like that's, you gotta think about it like that too, because that's how the world works, you know? So it's like we can't play the victim card for too long. It hurts. We can't. We have to really step it up and be like, all right, I'm gonna charge you. Like, okay, you stole my idea, so my lawyer's gonna call you. My lawyer's my homeboy. You know, like we're friends. You know what I mean? But that's how you have to, you know, scare them a little bit, you know, and say like, this is, you know, plagiarizing or stealing or whatever. Like we have to have a stronger voice.
Or Trojan horse them, you know, send in our own and then infiltrate from within. That's the only way. That's one way. It sucks because it's just like Carmen mentioned earlier, the Marsha P. Johnson documentary and how it ended up on Netflix. It was stolen from another director, a trans director.
What?
And, you know, because this white guy, he had pull. And you have to look at it in a way where, yes, it is a very, very shitty thing that happened to Raina. That her ideas, her story was taken from her, and another guy just put his name on it. A white man put his name on it, and it ended up on Netflix. Now, the argument could be, yes, it was stolen. But think about the reach, because of the fact that it was stolen, and this guy put effort into letting the story be told internationally. I hate to say, but Raina became collateral damage. Just so this story can be told. Now is it wrong? Yes. But the bigger picture of the fact that the story is told is where I'm trying to find the silver lining of at least the story was told, you know? Because what if it was just in Raina's hands and she didn't have the clout that this man had to put it on Netflix? It would probably be sitting on some independent film place that wouldn't even be seen, or the numbers of it wouldn't be seen as the reach of it wouldn't be as big. So, yeah, like I said, like the best way to do it is infiltrate from within. Fine, you want to make this? Yeah, Tom is right.
Can't beat them, join them, and then once you join them, take it over. Bring in your friends. You know what I'm saying? We have to work. We have to fight. We gotta get in, and we have to put in that dirty work. We have to. We have to get in there and continue on. You know, it's there. We're getting close. You know, I really feel it.
It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and we gotta be the dogs. You know, we gotta eat them.
Hi, my name is Day, and it's such an honor talking to you guys because all of you inspire me so much. What I just wanted to ask is, like, on the process of coming out, I'm a proud gay man. On the process of coming out, I first had to, like, accept my identity, and then, you know, there's that sphere of, like, you know, friends, family, and the greater community. I'm blessed. I live in New York. I have an amazing, you know, environment, amazing friends in my work. Like almost 50% of our employees identify as gay. So it's like such a supportive network. But I'm not out to my parents, and they live in Korea, and they're very, you know, single-minded. They are very religious, which often blinds them, and it's just really hard to kind of, you know, complete that circle. So I'm just looking for, you know, any advice on, in terms of, like, you know, finding safety, coming out to your family and whatnot. Those are really difficult tasks. How can we, you know, how can I come out to my family? But two, more importantly, how can we create an environment where it doesn't, you don't even need to come out to your family? You know, how can we get to that point?
I'll talk about my coming out story. I was shopping at the mall with my sister for a prom outfit. Yeah, it was a prom outfit. And My sister was like, when are you gonna tell mom you're gay? And I'm like, when are you gonna tell mom you're gay? I was like, you know what, fine, I'll do it. And I was like, okay, how am I gonna do this? And so I thought to myself, all right, should I do it in an open space where she can't try to kill me? Then I was like, wait, call her over the phone. So I went ahead and I called her, and she completely, I'm not gonna say broke down. She broke down. And she was like, don't spend any of my money, come home, you're not going to the prom. So I was like, well, damn, bitch. So ended up going home, and we had to have a long conversation. And it didn't really end that well, but up until recently, she kind of sat me down, and she was like, listen, I wanted to let you know that I accept you. And I was like, it took you long enough. I guess the basis of what I'm trying to say is that it's not easy coming out to your parents, but you just gotta give them time. Because if they love you, if they truly love you, they will learn to accept you for who you are.
But there's almost guilt in that. I think that my parents will genuinely, they love me, and they will love me no matter what, but they will be hurt, and they will have to live with that pain, and
you can't internalize that.
Yeah, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like that. Like you're gonna get over it.
Yeah.
Because it's not my job to love you. It's your job to. It's not. It's your job to love me. It's not my job to love you. Like that's how I see it. Like
You're the parent.
You gave birth to me. You did what you needed to do to bring me here. Now I'm here, so you have to love me. Like that's how
Sorry, Mom. The main job a parent has to do is love you unconditionally. Now, how to come out to your parents as an Asian person, how I did it. I left Easter eggs. Like I did it little by little. Like I would throw hints here and there, see how she would react. Because I tried first with my brother, because I was like, that was the main one, because I figured to myself, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need an ally. I need somebody to help me smooth this into mommy, so mommy doesn't go crazy and throw me out the house. So I first tried it with my little brother, and thank God, it worked, and he was cool. And then, my brother, even, he's the one who came up with the idea to tell my mom, little by little. He was like, throw hints and see if she catches on. And, there would be times where we'd be eating dinner, and I'm like, yeah, I think he's cute. There would be something like that, and then just see and wait for a reaction. It's, you can do that you have the luxury of the fact that you don't have to see them. They're on the phone, or you can see them on Skype, whatever. Like those little Easter eggs, you could see how their reaction would be. They'd be like, okay, never mind. So, little by little, and then when you feel comfortable, it's not when you think it's time, when you'll know when it's time for you to tell them. And you're an adult. You're gonna have this is a growing pain where you can either hide it or do they ever see you? You know what I mean? So you're gonna have to say something at some point to them. And if you love them and they love you, I know for a fact Asian families always say, "Oh, we're going to disown." No, you don't. They will disown you if you have bad grades. They will not disown you for good grades. Okay? I know this for a fact. I got in so much more trouble for having a fucking C on a test than when I came out as gay. So I just little by little, I guess that's my best advice to any kid who's trying to come out and you don't know how. It's, little by little, just, see, throw a rock and see who reacts.
See what breaks.
Yeah, see what breaks.
But I think, Jay, you brought up a really important point that I also don't want to get lost in as well, and that's the point of religion. What role does religion play? in having that conversation?
For me, I think, oh my gosh, religion, what? My family is, you know, Peruvian, my dad's side is Puerto Rican. You know, they came to this country with just their religious beliefs, you know, and that God was gonna work it out, and that, you know, you have to follow rules, and, you know, it was pressure. And then for me, growing up, I had to come out twice, you know, because the first time I thought I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a gay guy now, so, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I had to like sit my mom down, like I was super dramatic, you know. My strategy was like I took the most flamboyant one of my friends to dinner. You know, like my friend Jimmy, oh my gosh, he is so himself, and he inspired me. Oh, you know James, right? Inspired me to like pull my personality out, because he was just so himself all the time. And, you know, he just didn't care, you know, what you said at like 18 years old when I met him. So he's like the perfect person who has built up their confidence to be able to just be themselves. So I brought him home for dinner, and, you know, raised a few eyebrows, but at the same time, like I got to see my parents' reaction, my mom and my grandma's reaction to my friends' flamboyancy, to see how uncomfortable it made them, and that was my starting point. Once I got to see how they felt, you know, about someone connected to me, like I would notice the little things, you know, like whatever. And then I would be like, all right, this is the work that I have to put into my grandma, this is the work that I have to put into my mom and my sister and so forth. So that's why I sat my mom down, because, you know, I was one and only child of my dad. My mom's like, you know, head over heels in love with this guy. Like my mom still to this day tells me about how much she loves my dad. And I was like the only kid. So to not be his son, you know, was like huge for her. So I had to really sit her down and like have that conversation to say, like, you know, I was crying and everything, and it was because I was dating a guy at the time and I needed relationship advice and I didn't know who to go to. So that was sort of like what got us closer to have a connection to talk about my experience. Not for me to just kind of force it on her and like, you have to accept me, but it was more about, this is what's happening and I'm hurting right now and I need help. And then her as a mom, I knew that would click because I have a great mom. Like her as a mom, or the mom would come in, you know, to say, that's my child, and that's why I say, like, sorry, you have to love me, because I think back at that time when I was like, I know how much my mom loves me, and I'm going to use that to let her know that I need her as her kid, and remind her that I'm her child, I'm not her gay kid or her trans kid, like I'm her kid, you know, and I need her. So that worked for me.
For me, with my mom, I use religion against her.
Yes. Oh, you did?
Because I was like, I told my mom, I was like, okay, well, if you're going to condemn me for being gay, I'm like, technically, you're going to go to hell before I do. And I was like, you had me out of wedlock, mommy. So, you laid in bed with a man who wasn't your husband. So if I'm going down, you're going down.
My mom would have smacked the shit out of me. Like,
I was afraid she was going to, but the way she said it, like, oh my God, you're going to go to hell. And I was like, wait a second. No. I was like, no, let's backtrack here, mommy. Because, you know, if anything, you started the situation. So we were, I sure did. I went to Catholic school my whole life, so I was like, I'm going to use this against you.
I know my shit.
I know my stuff, okay? I paid attention in religion class. So that was my way to kind of get my mom to see that, you know, it's not so black and white. And like, so she had to realize, like, yeah, like, okay. I was like, my mom literally said, damn, this bitch got me.
I think so too, is that a lot of like immigrant parents like mine, like come to this country and, you know, like they feel like it's like survivor mode, you know, and sometimes they get that with religion confused because they're like, you know, we have to navigate through all of these new people and new experiences and new places, and, you know, we have to keep in mind, like, all we know is just like religious, you know, these religious beliefs that help to separate who you can, I guess, associate with too, you know, so it's like, yeah. Also,
to help you, because I know you have Asian parents like me.
Thank you.
This was also my argument. I was like, it could be worse. I could be doing drugs. For Asian families, that is a huge. Like I said, bad grades and drugs, that is a whole, like, that you will get, that's what you're going to get excommunicated for. Not because of being gay. So that's one way to be like, it could be worse. I could be on drugs. That's all. Yeah, that was like, those were like my arguments with my mom when coming out, and because I was just like, I had to find a way where she would understand that it's not as bad as she thinks it was going to be. And my mom was a nurse, so she was afraid that, oh my God, what if you get AIDS or HIV? I'm like, Mommy, I'm not even thinking that far into it yet. I'm just like, just had a first kiss, please, let's not go that far. And, you know, so that's a good way to do it. Just like I said, Easter eggs, and then hit her with her own medicine.
We have time for one more quick question. Bring this question.
Hi, Bonnie. So I feel that for trans women, you guys are really wrongfully fetishized, and I just want to see what your thoughts are on that, and how you can be the woman that you want to be, and not be expected to look or dress or act a certain way just based on the fact that you identify as trans.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit of my story, right? So, my first kind of exposure to trans people was at the drag show. So, like, I used to work at Escolita when it was open, and every Friday and Saturday they'd have a drag show, and then it'd be like the closing, like, goddess, you know? And, like, for the trans women back then, it was all about the aesthetic, and it was all about the way that you looked and being sexy and looking really sexy. And that's how I learned, basically. Like, I knew I wanted to transition, and I'm like, you know, the women that were around me were either sex workers or, you know, drag performers. And I don't know how this idea came along that, like, you're not a woman unless you're sexy. You're not a woman unless you have the perfect body. You're not a woman unless all men want to have sex with you. Like, that's what was instilled in us. And it was because what was on the media. It was because, you know, Jerry Springer, the Maury Show, all these things that would, you know, every single day have a transgender storyline where you see someone committing acts of violence against a trans person just for being trans. You know, so it's like, that, it was always about the survival. I think that's where it comes from, this whole, like, fetishizing, you know, because it's like, we use that as a survival mechanism to navigate the world. But I think that now, like, I think things are changing, like, but I think that, I mean, we have, like, the whole world to change, you know, we have, like, years of conditioning to change, you know, and I think it starts with what we're doing and being visible and vocal about what we're trying to do that's different, that kind of goes against that. I mean, listen, if you want to be a sex worker, you can be a sex worker, girlfriend, go ahead, make your money. Like, I have nothing negative to say if that's the life that you want to choose. But when it comes to everyone else in the world trying to take away, I guess, your womanhood, or just, you know, they want, it's like you're not good enough unless you fit this, like, fake standard that biological women don't even necessarily fit either. So it's really hard, it's difficult. It's more about, like, I think just being vocal, just continuing on, you know, to not give into that. Because, I mean, I felt for that for a while. In the beginning of my transition, I was all about that. I need to make sure I got my validation. I had to go to the club, and I need to make sure that somebody's gonna put me in bottle service, and okay, and everybody needs to want to have sex with me. Now I'm validated, and I can go and I can be happy now. Like, I used to think that way too, you know?
And for me, it was, that me and Carmen, we literally grew up on the same club circuit.
Yeah.
So, I got my first hormone shot in the club, literally. So, when it comes to, like, the validation, you had to be more beautiful than a regular woman. You had to be more exotic and more, and
It's always like you're not good
not
enough.
until you made this, like, so for me, at some point, I also turned into sex work because I couldn't get a regular job. And after my mom passed away, I needed to make sure that I had a roof over my head, I was gonna be able to eat and all that. Hello, you know, a girl likes to eat. So I had to make sure that I had to survive. And I couldn't get a regular job, and, you know, the job that I was getting, besides the club stuff, you know, it wasn't enough. Living in New York City is so expensive. So I had to make ends meet. And by any means necessary, I had to put a food, like, I had to do something. So that's what I turned to. it's not easy as much as, because if you're not passable or you don't have the right gender marker, it's not, people will look at you differently when you're at your interview. And up to this day, I still don't have my gender marker fixed or my name changed. So I still have all my government the way I was since I was born. And so now it's like, if God, I remember going into a job interview and they were like, oh, but your name is, and I was like, ooh, yeah, but I go by Bianca, and I had the qualifications to have this job. I was more than qualified for this assistant manager job, but they wouldn't give it to me. So, like I said, it took a while, so I was just at some point I was like, I have to do something. And that's sad, but that's how we are being sexualized and fetished, because a lot of it is what they see from Jerry Springer and what's available.
It's like a cycle. It's what we see, so it's how we have to adapt, because we think, okay, well, we have to look really good, we have to sound really good, we have to be perfect, we have to be on point, and then you still people are gonna still But I think for me, what I try to do, honestly, is I try to with my career. I mean, I would say my biggest break after Drag Race was doing the Steven Meisel shoot for Showgirl. It was called Showgirl. And they put that on everywhere. It was on Inside Edition, it was on Entertainment Tonight. It was can you believe this model was born a boy? And you just see me with my boobs out. And I was just, at first I was like, work, yes, let them learn it. Then I thought for a while, after, going on Katie Couric with Laverne Cox, and how she was really speaking from a place of intellect and really knowing, having it figured out. I was just going on, at the time, I was just going on what I'd learned and those survival skills, versus someone who is like Laverne, that just knew, she's been put through it for so long, and she was just so smart how she put it. And I'm like, you know what, when I think about this, I think I don't want to contribute to this sexualized image of a trans woman. I'm sexy though, don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna do my thing, my show and stuff, but that's not all I want to offer. And I think that us as trans women, as women, we're allowed to be sexy, we're allowed to show our sensual side, but I also think that we should be working on other things too. My Instagram, I will be there with no makeup on. I don't care. I will look ugly. I'm not afraid to look ugly. I don't care. I'm not afraid to look unattractive. I will put it out there for the world to see. I'm just a normal girl who's just trying to survive too, And I think that should help, I think we have to sort of take on that responsibility a little bit too, by what we put out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
My brother always, his biggest thing to tell me is and I thought women was complex. He was a trans sister is even more complex than a regular woman. I was like, no, true.
Before I pass it back off to
Did you have one more question?
I wanted to ask what can we do to target the ignorant heterosexual people so we can educate? You were saying about the indigenous genderless entities, with that history, with that knowledge, are there any books, any links that we can put out there and push out there? Because we need to educate the younger people, but also we need to educate the older, ignorant people as well, because they're the ones that are out there tackling. They're the ones that are doing the real harm. So, could you let us, or let me know after, or I just need the information so we can push it out there.
I think it piggybacks off what you were saying, Carmen, about teaching history, LGBT history, because just to
it's important.
reiterate.
It's been erased. It's been erased. All of this stuff, it has been erased. I think after religion came in and people were I don't know the exact history, don't quote me, okay, but, when religions came and everyone started to follow that religion, it's you'd be killed if you didn't or whatever, people forgot about these ancient history, and I think that now it's time to bring that back up and to be an ally. If you are heterosexual or if you don't, if you're part of our community, you have heterosexual friends, seek allies, and we need to create more people that are understanding of what's going on. Because I feel the most people who have the loudest bark are usually ones that have no experience with a trans person or a gay person. They don't know anybody that's gay or trans. They're just talking shit because they're mad, because they're following the rules, and it's not working out for them. So now they see us rebelling, and people, you know, we're succeeding in our fight, and they're like, hey, no, you can't do that, because I'm here miserable, and you can't be happy, because you're supposed to be, like, miserable. You know what I mean? Like, so we have to really, it's a lot of work on different levels, but I think being an ally is a good start.
I feel like also if we find, like again, back to educators who are willing to dig into history and find these stories and find these, it dates back to Greek mythology where the men were playing with boys. You know, that's another story of pedophilia, but I mean, it's
not like a new thing.
It's not a new thing. It's been around for so long, but they just, like Carmen said, they erase it from history. So if you can find a person or people, a group of people who are willing to dig deeper into history and find the holes that were like.
And don't be afraid too. Like, you know, because I've done it in high school. I remember when there was gay kids that get, you know, picked on, I'd be like real silent, you know, because I'm like afraid. Don't be afraid. If you're in a social setting where, yeah, you know, you may be heterosexual, cisgender, and you have other, you know, your peers or whatever, and the joke is about, you know for a fact that the joke is about some, you know, guy being effeminate, and it's like a gay joke, or a trans woman, and it's about, oh, she's a man, or whatever, speak up. Speak up and say, hey, that's not cool. I'm your friend, and I don't want you to be ignorant. I love you, and this is really what it's about. So those jokes are not cool.
You gotta educate them.
And I can say that also it's not just the responsibility, to your point, Carmen, it's not just the responsibility of the LGBTQ community to do that, it's everybody's responsibility.
Yeah.
Before I turn it over to my friend Julianne, I just want to you know, personally just say thank you to you and thank you for VFILES for always providing the space and always providing the leadership and always providing the venue for everyone to be able to not just express their truth, but to be proud of their truth. So thank you very much for you and for I want to say thank you to HMI for your leadership. Robin is proudly and the reason Robin has proudly supported HMI for a decade now is because you guys are best in class at what you do. You are unafraid in your work, and we're thankful for your work and for your truth and your honesty and your hard work in this community. So thank you so much. I want to also just personally say thank you to every member of Robin Hood Nation, and that includes everybody here. Robin Hood will always, always, always proudly stand for those who need and deserve a champion. And when we have this mission about poverty alleviation, when we have this mission about economic mobility, when we have this mission about trying to give voice to those who often feel like their voice has been continually and intentionally muted, that's where Robin Hood has always proudly stepped in. And I just want to say on behalf of the Robin Hood family and on behalf of everybody within Robin Hood Nation, your work and your voice and your support truly matters. Our website is just robinhood.org if you want to learn more as well. But we just could not be more thankful for the chance to be a part of this conversation. Jiggly, Carmen, Rory, listen, everybody's going through their own process, right? And I'm going to be very honest, there's a whole lot of people that when they go through their own process in life, and no matter what that process is, and they make it to their own levels of success or accomplishment or recognition, they have a tendency to get real quiet and forget where they came from. They have a tendency to get real quiet and forget about the fact that there are people who are coming up behind them who still need help and who still need support. And I just want to say thank you for never forgetting that. Y'all have created legions of fans and supporters and admirers, and it will be very easy for you to just take that and run with it. And you don't. You make sure that what you're doing is as you move up, you're also building a bridge so other people can move up with you. So just thank you for not just your leadership, but thank you for remembering that you're not alone.